The thoughts, opinions, and general overall shade thrown on High at 9 News are those of the individual speakers and not those of High at 9 News, its audience, or its advertisers. The statements made do not constitute medical, legal, or financial advice, and for advice tailored to your specific situation, please consult with a licensed professional. Welcome to the High at 9 News Hour, where you will hear from cannabis industry experts and professionals from around the country talk about important topics while shining light on global issues and discussing cannabis as it relates to politics, regulation and reform, data and technology, science, research and medicine, family and parenting, art, celebrities and entertainment, fitness, sports, mental health and wellness, and plant-based medicines and entheogenics. Together, we are building a stronger community, fighting the stigma and creating change. With your hosts, Jason Beck and Rico Lamitte, joined by special industry expert correspondents from around the country, and daily antics brought to you by Cannabis. Coming to you live every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific Time and high noon on the East Coast. And thank you all for getting high at 9 with us. Yeah. Good morning, everybody. That's right. It is Monday, the most important day of the week, September 30th. And today is Mathieu St. Germain. You're going to love this, and so will you, Rico. Today is Orange Shirt Day.
Oh, I love that. Shout out to the inmates out there.
Oh, stop it.
Wow, Rico.
Yeah, we knew he was going to go there. It's also National Love People Day, you guys.
That's cute.
Shout out to the inmates out there.
It's also National Hot Muled Cider Day, you guys, because, baby, it's cold outside.
Mulled cider.
Yeah, that's what I said. It's also National Mud Pack Day and National Chewing Gum Day.
Shout out to the
you
inmates
guys.
out there.
Oh boy.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, oh wow. That's going to be...
You said packing mud?
Mud Pack Day. That's what it says, National Mud Pack Day.
Jason, very DEI announcements today.
Bro, if that's what the day is, I'm here to announce it. You know what I'm saying? I'm not segregating what days and what things are. You know what I'm saying? That's what they're called. I don't know about
Turning
all that.
Turning a new leaf as we head into Q4.
He's not in charge of the days, Rico.
I'm not in charge of the days, not yet, Rico. But pretty soon I will.
Not yet.
Yes.
All right, when the Orange Fuhrer is installed.
Pretty soon I'll be the day czar.
Oh, wow.
Are Nazi salutes allowed on the High at 9 News?
Stop
Jason?
the ridiculousness, Mathieu St. Germain. Anyways,
Hey, I'm
thank
just
you all
asking
for joining
questions,
us and
bro.
getting high at 9 with us. It's also high noon on the East Coast. And please remember to like, share, and subscribe to us on all social media platforms. You can look up above and down below to see exactly where we live on the internet. And we are live every Monday through Friday on YouTube, Rumble, Twitch, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and on our very own website at www.highat9news.com. So welcome to everyone joining us from any one of those platforms. And kicking it off today, that's right, he is back in black. It is the dope dad himself. He got his throat back with a nasty attack. That's right, it is the dope dad himself, Mr. Rico Lamitte.
Thank you, Jason. I cannot say the same for everybody out there. So for those of us with a preserved throat,
I told you, I sent you what to get for that chloroseptic, bro.
I was good with the lidocaine that they gave me, but you know what I'm saying? Still taking it easy. You know? So but if there's one universal thing that investors do not like, it's uncertainty. And uncertainty is exactly what California's cannabis industry has found itself drowning in since Governor Gavin Newsom's hemp ban went into effect last week under the guise of emergency rules to severely limit public access to hemp products. According to Benzinga's Abby Higginbottom, the move could remain in effect until March 2025 and has already caused ripples throughout the hemp and cannabis communities, with some wondering how the new restrictions will impact both industries. The broader implications of the regulations could extend beyond the state, affecting national markets and future policy decisions. And of course, it's something an already wary cannabis investment community has been watching very closely. Like Seth Yakatan, co-founder of Catan Associates, whose portfolio boasts a number of forward-thinking cannabis companies, both plant-touching and ancillary, like Ardent, Can, and Ease, to name a few. During an interview with Higginbottom, Yakatan discussed the potential impact of the proposed regulations and what he believes it means for the market as a whole. Like many others, the co-founder found the proposed restrictions puzzling, especially regarding specific product categories. He said that the recent announcement by Governor Newsom is perplexing. While the action has been enacted and why it eliminates things like low-dose beverages makes no sense. The ban could drastically impact hemp businesses in California, particularly those selling hemp-based beverages and other products that have found a growing market in the state. This does not bode well for those in the alt-NIOD beverage business with products in California, he said, referring to alternative cannabinoid movement that's been on fire over the last couple of years. But it wasn't all negative remarks. Higginbottom wrote that while the restrictions may hurt the hemp industry, Yucatan suggested that they could provide an advantage to California's regulated cannabis market as consumers shift towards dispensaries for similar products. Mm-hmm. I can only see this helping the regulated cannabis market as consumers will now, for 6 months at least, have to go to a regulated or trap dispensary to procure product, he said. I gotta give a quick little shout out to Seth Yucatan for using the word trap in a Benzinga interview. I think that might be a first. Hopefully they don't move too fast into gentrifying that term too, just like they did woke. Right,
they will.
Jason?
They'll try. They
already did.
They try to take all of the
they
good stuff
being
that we
you,
create.
Jason, woke. Did it go right over your head? But the article continued by saying the temporary ban raises broader concerns about how state-by-state hemp regulations could affect the national cannabis market. And Yucatan anticipates that each state will legislate its own hemp rules, leading to a fragmented regulatory landscape, just like cannabis. THC, I should say. It appears that each state is going to legislate this issue on its own and as it sees fit. Get ready for a nationwide game of whack-a-mole as this continues, he added. As California emergency rules go into effect, many of the cannabis industry will be watching closely to see how it navigates these changes and what kind of precedent it sets for others. On one hand, it's refreshing to hear deep-pocketed investors explicitly calling out the clusterfuck and self-inflicted wound created by Governor Newsom's announcement last week. Of course, Catan holds Can in its list of plant-touching investments, and that company's put a ton of resources into hemp-based beverages that up until last week you'd find pretty much anywhere you see kombucha or White Claw. I thought it was interesting that he said it might be a good thing in the end for the real THC market, which stands to benefit from the lost customers looking to scratch that itch with something a bit more pure, I should say. But what do y'all think? Will California's hemp ban lead to a spike in state legal cannabis sales, or is the trap just going to do what it always does and evolve in a way to get Delta-8 and other hemp derivatives back in the hands of those who want them? I'm Rico Lamitte, the dopest dad on the street for High at 9 News. What say you?
I just can't wait to see the guys standing out in trench coats with a whole bunch of Delta-8 products inside. Because that's
coming.
Yeah, I mean, this ban is just totally ridiculous. They're never going to be able to enforce it. And shout out to Seth Yucatan. Seth Yucatan's a good friend and very smart guy. He has probably one of the most poppinest LinkedIn pages on LinkedIn in regards with all these topics. And so definitely encourage people to check out his page.
I just love the fact that he said trap to Benzinga. I think it's the first time I've ever seen trap actually spelled out on a Benzinga article.
Yes, and Brian Dombrowski says, just want to point out that Seth is part of the Glasshouse team, whom just entered the hemp side. Says, well done if you're watching, brother.
Interesting.
Exactly.
Follow the money. Follow the money.
Follow the money. I mean, they have all those greenhouses that they haven't even turned on. I mean, it's a perfect use for them because it's not like they're going to sell more weed than they're already selling now.
Maybe they're waiting on Donald Trump to cut the energy bills in half until they start doing that.
I can't wait till he does that.
It'd be great.
Drill, baby, drill.
With what plan, Jason? The concepts of plans?
Yarrow, Yarrow and Matthew, you guys have been pretty quiet so far this morning.
I have a lot of, I was trying to follow my mom's advice. If you have nothing nice to say, don't say anything at all.
Fair enough. We can
say
take
glass houses and McDonald's of weed. You know how I'm gonna go. Like elbow off the top rope on all this corporate bullshit. Or some weed in your backyard. Smoke weed with your friends. Let's keep watching all this dumb shit fail.
I thought you liked to smoke hemp, Matthew.
So there's no way in which this is a gift to the regulated market. So at the risk of being disagreeable, which I try to wake up every morning and figure out a way to do that, I do not agree with Seth at all. This is not a boon to the regulated market. This is a boon only to the trap. Because the people who were buying hemp-derived cannabinoids that were psychotropic, I don't believe that there's massive overlap between those people and the people who are buying THC in a dispensary. So I don't think this is going to help the regulated market at all. What I think this is going to do is it creates not trap 2.0, but a trap 2B. And it's this second trap market that didn't previously exist that gets to be a byproduct of the Farm Bill not being updated for the last 6 years, and where states are trying to come up with a state bolt-on solution, and that's going to be whack-a-mole at best. The thing that I keep saying, though, is the genie is out of the bottle, the toothpaste is out of the tube, the cat is out of the bag, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. There's no going backwards. We can't turn back the hands of time, and so I see this as a reactionary attempt to say by a certain governor that they did something versus nothing before something potentially terrible happens with the lack of age-restricted access. But at the end of the day, until we have parity between cannabis and hemp, we have nothing that really is going to be sustainable. We need less regulations on cannabis, a little bit more, just a little bit more on hemp, and we need to make it an even playing field so that purveyors of cannabinoids don't have to deal with the burdensome tax structure and slow-moving regulations of regulated cannabis, but also can't just free willy it because they're on the other side of the fence.
So Yarrow, I think what you're actually saying too is that this is all preparation for some big thing, and possibly part of the October surprise when maybe Delta 8 comes out as the bad guy, is what you're saying.
The only preparation this is preparation H, okay? This is just a cool off on the flare up. It doesn't make any sense when you think about how we try to actually create some measurable, solid societal outcomes. Newsom's reaction, I think, will play decently in the press, and to those that don't know. To the rest of us, I just think it's grandstanding, theatrical optics. It's a fucking joke. And I think we need to think about how we ask for better from our politicians and policymakers on either side of the aisle to come up with either solution or to wait until they have solution. I don't see how this solves anything. And I'm not sure how they're going to be able to say that they did a victory lap and being tough on unregulated, unsafe, unage-restricted cannabinoids in the state of California.
And Yarrow, add a little bit to that. Like, what about the prices? Aren't the prices going to be that much more expensive if you're going like full THC rather than the Delta 8? Like, I'm only guessing because I don't even know what Delta 8 prices are, but I can only imagine they'd be dirt cheap because there's a ton of them out there and you can find them at fucking gas stations.
Well, before we move on, I'm just glad that we got the soundbite from Yarrow that he is trying to make measurable solids. And on that, we're going to go to a commercial and we're going to be right back.
Modium AD.
Oh, man, that was weird. Hey, you, America. Do I look like Sean Connery? Good morning, America. Saman Razani coming to you live from sunny Los Angeles, California with the one and only highest host, Mr. Jason Beck, smoking on the best weed in the world. Did you know that we have an audio-only version of our podcast? You can find it on Apple, Google, Amazon, iHeartRadio, and Spotify. No excuses in 2024. If you haven't checked us out, check it out now. And also, check out what the Prophet's doing in 2024.
He's back like he left something. Y'all know what time it is. It's time for Donald Trump's favorite test mule.
Oh, God.
The man, the myth, the legend. He walks out in and out of every room as the highest Republican. He's known for smoking the best weed in the world everywhere that he goes. True. And this morning, he's going to break us off a little bit of that Monday heat. Mr. Jason Beck.
Man, you guys, good morning. Good morning. Happy Monday, everybody. Man, I have a very, very interesting story because I'm going to tell you what. If you needed another reason to vote no on Amendment 3, I think I have found that for you, because they are totally trying to scare the public in Florida, because Amendment 3 campaign warns of fentanyl-laced marijuana, you guys. But some call it a myth, because it is a myth, because it's total bullshit, but nonetheless. A statewide ad blitz by the group pushing for legalized marijuana warns Floridians of the dangers of black market pot. It may be laced with fentanyl, they say, a potent drug driving an epidemic of fatal drug overdoses. In a quote, "I've seen it firsthand," Gadsden County Sheriff Morris Young said in a 30-second television spot running in prime time. Legal pot will be regulated and lab tested, he said, making his case for why voters should support Amendment 3 in November to authorize adult use marijuana in Florida. But amid heightened concerns across the country about the synthetic opioid fentanyl, usually taken separately or mixed with heroin or other opioids, experts unaligned with the campaign cast serious doubt on the claim that fentanyl-tainted marijuana is an actual problem, you guys. That's right. Several officials on the front lines of the opioid epidemic say they haven't seen deaths caused by fentanyl-laced marijuana, which I agree with them. And some groups have even called it a myth that the two drugs are combined and sold to unwitting users. It is a myth. That's total bullshit. Though Amendment 3 supporters raise valid points that legal pot would be scrutinized if the measure passes, the chances of someone unknowingly buying fentanyl-dusted pot is extremely low, said Dr. Bruce Goldberger, a University of Florida forensic toxicologist who monitors drug overdose trends. Thank God they got someone speaking truth. In a quote, he says, "I am not aware of any definitive finding related to marijuana fortified with fentanyl," he said. There have been reports that over the last 5 to 10 years, to my knowledge, none of these instances were verified, and that is what we have reported here on High at 9 News as well. Young has referenced a mass fentanyl poisoning blamed for at least 6 deaths in Gadsden County and being linked to fentanyl-laced marijuana. But his office declined to release records related to the case, citing an ongoing investigation, and medical examiner reports show cocaine was found in the systems of the victims in those drug overdose deaths, which occurred over the 4th of July weekend in 2022. See, there's fentanyl in the cocaine, bro, not in the weed. A 2022 article in the Journal of Emergency Medicine called Fentanyl-Laced Marijuana a male-involvement myth, largely based on hearsay. And fentanyl is a real and deadly drug responsible for thousands of overdose deaths each year in Florida alone. The U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration has warned of fake prescription drugs containing fentanyl and methamphetamine, but hasn't issued any alerts about marijuana. The Partnership to End Addiction found no solid evidence exists of fentanyl-laced marijuana and concluded it would make sense for drug dealers to secretly mix the pricier opioid with cheaper pot, you guys. Man, oh man, oh man, we all know that this is total bullshit, and I can't believe that Amendment 3 is trying to scare the public and use fear-mongering to try to get people to vote yes for legal weed, but I guess it's not past them and the whole Amendment 3 tribe. But nonetheless, this is Jason Beck for the High at 9 News Hour, and I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say about this.
I think it was malevolent, but
I know laced marijuana is not so bad.
You smoke you smoke the fentanyl-laced marijuana, Mathieu St.
It's very relaxing.
Oh boy. Oh boy. Oh boy.
I love that Rico's
Jason, someone's behind you.
What's that? What's that, Jenny Beth? Look, there he is. Oh, they got to place him better. They got to place him better. He's a little out of.
I think it's more concerning to really talk about Measure 3 and how what I've read is that it's going to allow basically a monopoly in the recreational space. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yes, it is going to allow for a monopolistic oligopoly, Mathieu St. Germain.
And what's the home grow on that?
There's no home grow.
There's no home grow.
Yeah, see, that's just total bullshit.
But at the same time, in their defense, voter initiatives are single subjects, so they could not have included home grow on this. They would have had to have a separate voter amendment for that.
Okay.
Well,
it looks like it's going to pass.
Mm-hmm.
It's just.
I don't think it's going to pass.
I think it's going to pass, and I think it would be nice to see it pass on its own merits.
You guys are wrong.
I don't think that using disinformation or misinformation on either side of an issue or a proposed vote is a fair way to change hearts and minds. And Matthew hit the nail on the head, right? There's no home grow in this, which means that it's a step in the right direction, but not in a way that is fair, and it really increases access in a democratized and level playing field way.
One other thing that the research and clinicians said is that fentanyl would likely be burned up and rendered harmless if it were mixed with pot and then smoked. The nonprofit organization of drug research and clinicians said, you guys.
So you mean I've been getting ripped off this whole time?
I'll give you your money back.
Well, let's not test that theory out. I think that's a really dangerous.
Yeah, I'm going to let the researchers focus on testing that out. I mean, they're the ones that said it, not me. The clinicians and the researchers said that.
They're crazy.
I've seen people smoke fentanyl in San Francisco on the street, so
Channel 5
doesn't
they
really
show it
check
all the time.
out based on my own personal experience.
Yeah, I agree with that. This is just total gaslighting, and I'm really disappointed in the whole Amendment 3 camp for taking this pathway of trying to get people to vote for Amendment 3. I mean, in all honesty, the Trump endorsement should have been enough to push it over the top, but we'll see. I
thought you were going to say that in all honesty, once Trump endorsed, anybody could lie about anything, and it was an even playing field for that.
Trump
his own party didn't even believe him, dude. His own party was calling it.
Trump doesn't lie. He don't get no need.
Nobody believes a word Trump says anymore, man. He's been outed as just saying whatever he will, whichever way the wind blows, so will his hair.
You mean he's a politician?
My favorite thing about Donald Trump lately is how he's pushing straight socialist government control because of his poll numbers and his desperation. He's like, "Oh, your car insurance? I'm going to lower that by 70%, dude."
No, he's going to improve the economy.
Bro.
No, it's not. It's lowering the prices for making everything more livable. That is not
corporate prices. Is socialism, Jason?
That is not socialism.
I sent Jason an article on Scandinavian socialist democracy this weekend that he didn't read. Obviously,
I still haven't read it yet. I haven't had a chance.
The reason I said that to you was so you could look at what your boy's doing.
Just
the
like
funny thing is,
just like CRT, just like wokeism, just like communism, Marxism, anything with the ism.
I love that Trump is doing this out of desperation. He's throwing out all of these different socialist programs in order to try to garner votes from the working class. And I, for one, think it's great because it kind of exposes the difference between the things he's saying and the Project 2025 crew, the GOP, the people that are backing him up that are radically pro-rich folks and pro-corporate policies and
I love how you always try to just
lower economic status people. But that's all I'm saying is government control.
Project 25 is not part of the Trump agenda. Let's just get that
controls
straight.
On corporate prices is socialism, everybody.
Oh, boy. And shout out to Steve Blassingham in there. It says, fighting inflation, unlike just handing out money. Exactly right, Steve. So true.
Donald Trump signed up $6 trillion to Wall Street and is the reason for our inflationary spike.
No, that's not true.
If you print $6 trillion backed by nothing,
it's all the money that Biden administration keeps giving to Ukraine, bro.
That's monetary policy, you guys.
How do tariffs work, Jason?
They're extra costs borne on the back of the American consumer.
Yeah. Just saying, Jason. Tariffs.
You guys.
Donald Trump's favorite word, right?
Yeah. I'm with Steve. He says, gotta let the Project 25 stuff go, bro. Come on, man.
What? What? No.
The problem is that
it's not part of the Trump
Christian
agenda,
theocracy
bro. It's not part of the Trump agenda.
And attempts to institute Christian Sharia based on no logic go nowhere.
Christian Sharia.
You don't have to let anything go.
You are out of this
if
world
somebody
already,
ever
Matthew.
says, guys, I want to create a unitary executive and get rid of the EPA, I'm not going to let that go. A unitary executive means a dictatorship. It is the end of our republic, you guys. Our Constitution is founded on 3 co-equal branches of government. Those 3 co-equal branches, the courts, Congress, and the president, are supposed to be equally weighted and able to institute checks and balances on each other. If one creates a unitary executive by the president and gives the president more power than the other 2 branches, one then creates a de facto dictatorship and destroys our republic. Why is it that the psychedelic freak seems to be the only fucking one on here that knows how the Constitution works?
Oh boy, stop there.
Hey, I thought you were America boy.
I am.
Tell me how the Constitution works.
this Constitution works amazingly, bro, and it's hard at work right now. And currently, the Democrats are trying to destroy it. But nonetheless, we don't have time to go into all of that, Matthew. We are.
Hold on. What time is it? I need to check my $100,000 Trump watch and find out what.
We are rolling right on into Miss Jenny Beth Dills. She has that Southern twang and here to tell you a thing or two about life, yourself, cannabis, and the industry. That's right. She's the founder of Kind Cannabis and of Justice Served, a 501c3 working on criminal justice reform. That's right. It is none other than Miss Jenny Beth Dills.
Yeah. I wish I could say I was going to do something to make this political argument better, but I'm not, because I've also picked a highly political article.
Yeah,
so
there we go. Yeah,
let's go.
Because in a significant move towards criminal justice reform, Republican Senator Rand Paul is spearheading a bipartisan initiative aimed at sealing low-level marijuana possession records. This effort is designed to provide individuals a second chance at life. Last week, Senator Paul not only introduced a measure to ease federal restrictions on hemp, tripling the allowable THC content from 0.3% to 1%, but also proposed the Clean Slate Act. This bill would enable those convicted of simple drug possession, and other low-level nonviolent marijuana offenses to request record sealing, particularly for cases that don't qualify for automatic relief. This newly introduced legislation is a companion to a House version filed last year by Representatives Lisa Blunt Rochester and Nancy Mace, which unfortunately did not progress. Why this is important? The bipartisan legislation co-sponsored by Senator Bob Casey aims to grant millions of Americans the opportunity to move forward without the burden of minor nonviolent criminal histories. Casey emphasized that this would help families and individuals who have completed their sentences but build successful lives. As efforts at the state level ramp up with initiatives in place like Minnesota, Colorado, Connecticut, and New York, this federal bill could mark a significant step towards reforming how we address low-level drug offenses. So obviously this is not the full answer, but any progress when we're talking about actually sealing records and expungement and making sure that we're following all steps of this process to cover people's lives and help them start to restore them is great. Obviously it's not enough, but this is progress. And I also think it's interesting that they're aiming to increase the amount of THC allowable in hemp on a federal level. So I want to throw it back to you guys and see what you think.
This is interesting because Rand Paul is calling for the elevation of the THC levels in hemp, and meanwhile Ron Wyden has introduced legislation that would keep it the same. And so that's going to be real interesting to watch as these conversations continue in the Senate delegation.
You're on mute, Rico.
I said it's good to hear Rand Paul's still fine and well. He's been about as quiet as Joe Biden, over the last year or so. Maybe he got into another spat with his neighbor and called the cops.
Got his ass beat.
Well, it sounds like he was busy, writing a bill. So,
exactly.
I don't know.
Exactly. Some people work.
Maybe he was somewhere doing his fucking job. Maybe.
Mm-hmm.
No,
I like this bill and what he's doing.
Hold on. Say that again, Mathieu St. Germain. Say that again, Mathieu St. Germain.
So maybe you guys will find the difference between St. Germain is he makes his decision based on principle, not tribal alliance.
Oh, boy.
Same.
And this is a good bill, and Rand Paul, as a senator from Kentucky, is backing up his constituents, and that makes sense. Both in allowing a higher legal limit for hemp so that they can actually get some of this saleable, as well as expunging or sealing these cases. And nobody ever deserved to be going to jail for cannabis. This entire thing was instituted by Ronnie Reagan and Richard Nixon, two of the most evil fascists to ever been born on the planet.
I don't know about all that, but okay.
Trumped only by George Bush Sr. And so I'd like to see all of these records sealed, expunged, people pardoned. And again, I think it's great that he's looking out for his hemp farmers in that way. But what I'd rather see is... and this goes back to that other story, I'd really rather see more government subsidies pointed at hemp farming to get hemp farmers into food, crop, the seed, into fuel, into fiber, into future-based hemp plastics, biodegradable hemp plastics, and all of these other things that the hemp plant can do besides try to compete with cannabis for THC content.
I totally agree with that, Mathieu St. Germain.
Speaking of fiber, it's interesting that Rand Paul, like Mitch McConnell, as folks trying to do their best for Kentucky, are united on the issue of being against former President Trump's tariffs And nor has Rand Paul endorsed Trump this year the way he did the last time Trump ran. So I thought that was interesting. Not a ton of unity in the party or a lot of broad support within the party for Trump's tariff language.
You must have missed that part of the article I just read.
Yeah, well, the internet does kind of work in all directions. So there are other articles one can feed one's brain with if one chooses to.
He had nothing negative to say about the article, so you need to find something to throw in there. I guess stick to the narrative.
Selective
it's okay.
hearing from Yarrow.
It's okay.
I think the narrative is that Rand Paul likes to position himself as this feisty libertarian outsider. Not always the case, but again, back to sort of economic policy and making America greater than it's ever been. There are not a lot of senators or previous senators who think that the tariff idea is well thought out economic policy that will propel us to the next stage of growth in our economy.
Fair.
The narrative, Jason.
Fair enough. Shout out to Rand Paul. We appreciate all the work you guys you do, Senator.
I think this is a great story.
This is fantastic. Thank you so much for covering this today. This is great news on a Monday to start your week off on the most important day of the week.
And I might be a slightly higher Republican this morning. Accidentally.
That's because you're still on.
Guys, I get sad when Rico leaves halfway through. Could we just leave a screenshot up of him from now on?
Where's Rico?
Maybe. But
we can get you one of those little teddy bears with his face on it.
We're going to be right back.
I'm Cole Preston, and today I'm at Blue Island Beer Company for the premiere of my mini documentary on legalization policy in Illinois. I've been following cannabis policy since colorful Colorado legalized it all the way back in the day. And when my home state of Illinois decided to legalize it, I just became enamored. I wondered, what would it actually look like? If you'd like to see how Illinois fell short in achieving meaningful reform in their cannabis policy, you can watch my mini-doc now at colememo.com/mini-doc.
And to make sure that you hit that like button, I know you'll appreciate it, we'll appreciate it, and YouTube will appreciate it. Also, make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't subscribed already. And all of the articles that we cover on today's show, you can read directly on our website at www.high9news.com. And one quick note, we do want to thank all of you for tuning in all the time, watching the videos and whatnot. Over the weekend, we surpassed 975,000 views on this channel, and want to thank you all very, very much. We're almost at 1 million.
I just ordered the summertime strawberry salad when added steak on top here at Anna's. Make sure you do the same thing too next time you're in downtown Long Beach. Come on down and check out Anna's joint on the 400 block of Pine Street. They have amazing selection of beers, foods, and when you come down here to Anna's, you can even challenge me to a game of shuffleboard if you want to lose. That. So, next time you're in downtown Long Beach on Pine Avenue, make sure you stop by Anna's Joint on the 400 block. Not only do they have Anna's Joint, this restaurant and bar, but they also have the amazing deli next door, and then next door to that they have a very exotic flower shop. You may want to stop by and say hi.
And we're back.
All right. Now, Jason?
Yeah, go for it.
Oh boy, the Sebastopol Sage. It's time to pay the troll toll because it's the angry elf of High at 9 News. Your cannabis real estate specialist, Mr. Yarrow Kubrin.
Shots fired. Jason, can I introduce Jenny tomorrow, or do we not want to see her cry on live TV?
Oh, so hold on. So you're into making girls cry? Is that what you're telling me?
Only with the truth.
Well, that's because most of them live in denial.
The nice river.
Oh, man.
It's the only one that flows upstream.
The Bay Club is good, you know?
I bet.
So viewers, pay attention to whether I introduce her tomorrow or whether they sidestep it with some little witty garb right now. And
I thought that was witty garb. I'm sorry. It was off cuff.
Oh boy.
Yeah, off the rails is more like it. All right, this is Yarrow Kubrin, High at 9 News. Good morning, Monday, September 30th. Hot off the press. The article I'm covering is, again, hyper-local back here in the Bay. And without further ado, from SF Gate and Lester Black, Bay Area dispensary called the most important on earth faces financial collapse, by Lester Black. Oakland's pioneering Harborside Cannabis Dispensary is probably the most influential cannabis dispensary in America. Founded in 2006, it went on to become the world's largest dispensary, spawn its own reality show, be defended by members of Congress before weed was legal, and eventually pave the way for marijuana legalization. But on Friday, Harborside is broke. The dispensary has gone from a poster child of cannabis reform to another example of the deep financial woes of the California cannabis industry. Harborside's parent company, State House Holding, has over $100 million in debt, nearly as much as its total assets. One of the company's lenders asked a California judge on Thursday to place the company into receivership, according to Green Market Report. Receivership involves a court-appointed manager selling off a company's assets after it can't pay back its creditors. Other major players have also fallen victim to the high debt problems of the state's troubled cannabis market, like the retail chain MedMen, once valued at over $1 billion, and massive pot distributor Herbal, which also faced financial collapse. In addition to the Harborside chain of dispensaries, State House Holdings owns companies across the cannabis supply chain, including cannabis greenhouses, manufacturing facilities, and product brands. While the future is uncertain for the Harborside dispensary, both the San Francisco and Oakland retail locations were still open as of Friday morning. The company did not immediately return an SF Gate request for comment. Harborside was founded in 2006 alongside an industrial stretch of coastline in Oakland and quickly became a pioneer in California's fledgling medical marijuana industry. Harborside was the first retailer to require safety testing for all its products, establishing quality assurance standards that are now required by law in nearly every state with legal cannabis. Dispensary co-founder Steve D'Angelo openly conducted his business in ways that attracted widespread attention. Debbie Goldsberry, the founder of Berkeley Patients Group, which opened in 1999 and is considered the longest continually operating cannabis dispensary in the country, told SF Gate Friday that Harborside was, quote, the most important dispensary on earth and inspired an entire generation of cannabis activists.
Oh, God.
D'Angelo was a force to be reckoned with, a very intelligent person, an extremely charming personality. People wanted to know what he was doing, Goldberry said. D'Angelo and his brother Andrew, along with co-founder Dress Wedding, ran the dispensary together, but were pushed out of the company after it merged into State House Holdings. They were not immediately available for comment on Friday. Harborside was one of the most prominent symbols of California cannabis industry during the 2010s. During a period of intense legal turmoil, federal authorities under the Obama administration increased enforcement of federal cannabis prohibition, despite growing public support for the medical marijuana access organizations like Harborside were providing at the time. Harborside was famously sued by federal agents in 2012, who called the business a marijuana superstore and claimed it was violating federal tax laws. Members of Congress came out in support of the dispensary, and the feds eventually dropped their case 4 years later. Goldsberry, who was running a dispensary in Oakland at the time, said the federal agents came after D'Angelo specifically because he was so bravely standing up for medical marijuana. He had inspired everyone who came after him. He was huge. That's why the tax agencies came so hard after him, Goldsberry said. So, really not that hard to pick some not so great news coming out of the largest cannabis economy here in the country, California. And I do think Harborside is iconic and may not represent the health of the industry in California overall, but if you borrow $100 million and you got $100 million in assets, that means you are not in a good place. Not at all.
No.
Yarrow Kubrin, High at 9 News. What do you think, Jason?
I have some questions about this. I'm a little bit confused. Because
not a new thing for you, my friend, but
no,
welcome to my side of the aisle.
No, well, no, I'm confused on this story, Yarrow. So, Harborside did a deal with Urban Leaf and with Loud Pack, and they merged to create State House. Okay, so now why are if I'm wondering about the structure of that deal right now, because if this was the case, it would read, one of the larger retail chains in California goes into receivership, as opposed to just focusing on Harborside, because there were way more stores of Urban Leafs throughout California than ever a Harborside. They only got up to 2.
So they're not in receivership yet, is my understanding from the article. And I think Harborside just has a much longer lineage and a more prestigious pedigree, and so that's probably why Mr. Black chose to highlight this portion of
I don't know. I think
State House's
I think
holdings.
he's just trying to just highlight Bay Area shit since he's from the Bay Area. That would be my guess.
Well, that's fine. I mean, like, what he should be highlighting is the fact that one of the best ways, one of the only good ways to make money right now in cannabis is through these weird debt plays, right? So all of a sudden, it's not lost on me that D'Angelo Brothers left, State Holdings came in, merged everything, all this new debt was created, and now to perfect the debt, we're going to probably bring in a receiver, and we're going to kick all this shit back. So what we're fucking is shareholders, fucking those people, but State House and the powers that be there are going to make money off the fact that they're going to roll up shop, figure everything out, and liquidate all their debt.
Interesting play there, Jenny Beth. And let me correct myself. I see Nick tried to correct me. He was Nick was a buyer over at Harborside for a number of years. Nick Bradley in the chat, he says they actually had 4 stores that were Harborside stores, and so, well, good for them. They have 4 stores.
They also
For one, I'm glad to see them having the same thing happen to them that they did to so many people and being financially ruined. D'Angelo is a vampire, and I saw him put 1 million farmers out of business by undercutting them on the price, which he then turned around and sold as top quality product, refusing to pay people with an abundance of excuses. Harborside was the beginning of the end of anything good in the legal weed game. And
snitching on his
love
competition.
To see them go and won't miss their
that has happened. That has happened. That's
well, snitching on his competition, refusing to admit to some of the farmers that were delivering medical product to his medical dispensary. He would not claim that he knew anything about that. People went to prison.
That's true.
Because he refused to step up and say, yes, this is an order coming to my medical shop.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry. I don't feel bad for you at all. And I don't like your pigtails.
So again,
Spark is next.
Harborside, it was co-founded by D'Angelo.
They're not involved in this.
Who likes the spotlight? Dress wedding was
wedding dress, bro. Wedding dress.
Dress wedding, and he was far less into the spotlight. So Steve sort of became what most people associate with the founder team, but it was far more than D'Angelo and his brother. The challenge, and I don't think, when Harborside and there was this amalgamation that created State House Holdings, each of those companies brought with them opportunity, income, and debt. And so the $100 million debt, it's not like State House didn't just put all this together, leverage it to the hilt, and all of a sudden they're just going to sort of sell it off for parts. A lot of these companies already came with existing debt. The idea at that point was that there was an economy of scale, bigger was better. They would control the supply chain, but Harborside already had some pretty substantial debt involved with it.
Totally fine. Still, new debt was created. It's still like the way it played out is not confusing here, right? So I don't know. I just think that it's interesting to see what has been done to other people by them being done to them, and that sucks.
Fair.
So one of the first stores to institute slotting fees. You had to pay to get on their shelves.
I do remember that.
You basically have a special edition episode, an hour long, of like fuck Harborside.
Yeah, literally.
There's so much they've done.
I don't think it should necessarily be directed towards Harborside. I think it would be more of, towards Steve more than it would be towards Harborside.
We don't always agree.
Interesting. All right. That's an interesting perspective you have there, Mathieu St. Germain. But on that, we're going to roll into our final commercial, and we're going to be right back. All right, you guys. Well, we have just crossed the 4,000 subscriber threshold, and we want to thank all of you that have subscribed. But we need to do more. We need to get to 10,000 subscribers. And as a thank you to all of our subscribers, I am going to hook up a half a pound of cannabis.
That's right, you guys. We are going to hook up a half a pound of cannabis to our subscribers. That's right. 8 of you will have the opportunity to receive 1 ounce of true classic OG if you are chosen. And if you're wondering how you can get your hands on one of these 8 ounces, all you have to do is subscribe to my YouTube channel. That's right, High at 9 News on YouTube. Make sure you hit that subscribe button as well as that notification bell when you do. And you could be enjoying an ounce of cannabis right here, or here, or here, or here, or here, or here, or maybe even right here in the studio with me. Make sure you hit that like button and share this post because it may increase or not increase your chances of winning. You must be 21 years old or over, or be a valid California patient, 18 years and over, with a valid recommendation to win. Winners must redeem their prize here in the state of California at any one of the 28 Catalyst retail locations throughout California. Cloud Media is not responsible for any consequences that may occur as a result of consuming cannabis. Please smoke and consume responsibly.
All right, you guys, we are back. We have thrown Jason back to the wolves, and they gave me the steering wheel. Watch out. We're headed over to our resident psychedelics expert, and his skin is normal tone today, which is amazing. It seems like the drugs have worn off, and rolling right into one of my favorite people, Mr. Mathieu St. Germain.
Hey, thank you, Jenny. Fellow correspondents, I hope Jason's going to be okay. I heard he's actually just on his little carpet worshiping Donald Trump.
He's in the broom closet. He's shut up.
To do that 5 times a day, he's facing Mar-a-Lago and praying with his head to the floor right now. I've got a fun story, though. Psychedelic therapy advocates fear high fees will curb the Colorado industry before it starts. Echo that is really resembling Oregon. Psychedelic assisted therapy is about to become available in Colorado next year. It will be just the second in the U.S. to regulate psilocybin mushrooms. However, advocates in Colorado are watching closely as Oregon's industry faces significant financial challenges that could threaten its success. Oregon legalized psilocybin therapy in 2020, and businesses began offering services in 2023. A year and a half into the program, some service centers in Oregon are struggling to stay open. One center in Portland shut down earlier this year after only 6 months of operation. The high cost of doing business, including licensing, is proving to be a major hurdle. Lafferty, owner of Inner Guidance Services in Albany, Oregon, opened her center in June 2022. In its first year, it served around 165 clients. But when it came time to renew her license at a cost of $10,000, Lafferty had to turn for crowdfunding for help. In a Facebook video, she explained, "Unfortunately, the program in Oregon is not set up in a way where it is profitable, so we do not have the $10,000. Thankfully, the community came together, and within 2 days, 8 people had donated enough to meet the goal. However, Lafferty still faces uncertainty about how she will cover next year's renewal. When you look at what you have to pay for, the facilitators, for the space, the rent, the electricity, everything you have to have, it sums up more than what you make reasonably. These financial challenges are top of mind for Colorado regulators as they work to finalize the cost structure for entrepreneurs in this new industry. While they spent over a year determining facilitator requirements and crafting business rules, licensing fees remain a significant piece to solve. Issues facing psilocybin centers in Oregon echo similar challenges seen in the early days of marijuana legalization, and in the later days too. Rachel Gillette, a Denver-based attorney and head of the cannabis and psychedelics group at Holland & Hart Law Firm, noted that businesses dealing with federally controlled substances often are charged higher fees by banks, landlords, and insurers due to the perceived risks, or more likely because those landlords can. We live in a capitalist society. Yay! In addition to these higher operational costs, psilocybin businesses are subject to a federal tax code that prohibits them from deducting operating expenses from taxable income, which drives up the overall cost of business. Those 280E. Everything seems to come with a premium on it because it's something that's federally illegal, Gillette said. Until psilocybin loses its stigma or becomes federally legal in some respect, that will continue. One of the primary concerns for both Colorado and Oregon is how the high cost of services might affect demand. In Oregon, a single guided session can cost thousands of dollars due to the price of the drugs and the facilitator who must supervise the client for several hours. Despite being seen as a mental health treatment, this therapy is not currently covered by insurance. That puts it out of reach for most people. Lafferty, whose center provided $33,000 in free services to clients who couldn't afford to pay in its first year, said, "The biggest thing we learned is that the way the Oregon model is set up, a little over the price range for our target market, which we knew, now it's been confirmed." To stay afloat, Lafferty has added new offerings at her center, including microdosing counseling, low-dose introductory sessions, and group trips, which help reduce costs for clients by splitting the expense among participants. "You're trying to not close, so we are trying a little bit of everything," she said. Jen Kluwe, a co-owner of the Journey Service Center in Portland, which closed in March, emphasized the importance of educating the public about the value of this therapy. While the cost of a guided session may seem high, he said clients have described the experience as equivalent to several years of talk therapy, an intensive process that doesn't come cheap. The value of this needs to be emphasized more and more for folks, not just the sticker shock, but the value. Kluwe now works at another center, Fractal Soul, where she runs its equity program. And other advocates believe that the right approach can make this therapy sustainable, but cost remains a barrier. In Colorado, there is hope that the more accessible thanks to laws allowing healthcare providers to integrate psilocybin into their existing practices. Unlike Oregon, where service centers must operate independently from other healthcare services, Colorado's regulations create a microhealing center license for businesses that only plan to host a few sessions per month. Advocates hope this lower-cost option will provide a smoother path for therapists and psychiatrists to offer psilocybin therapy. Still, proposed fees for these centers have raised concerns. Under the draft rules, centers will pay $3,025, $5,026, $12,000 per year by 2027. Shannon Hughes, a social worker in Fort Collins who offers ketamine-assisted therapy, sees psilocybin as another useful tool in mental health treatment. Eager to integrate into her practice, but the proposed $12,000 fee would be untenable for her small operation. "I really don't know anybody in the mental health community who that would be viable for," Hughes said. "Have to be a large operation to afford that $12,000 plus in fees." Asya Poinsett, director of the Healing Advocacy Fund, expressed concern at a recent rulemaking hearing that these high fees could make the program unworkable. "If we set the fees that high and discourage participation today, it's going to make it that much harder to get this whole thing off the ground in the first place," she said. Regulators will revisit the issue of licensing fees in an October meeting, with advocates pushing for more affordable path because they would like to see the industry recruited. I think this highlights a big problem with all this emerging legalization. It's very difficult if the insurance companies aren't going to pay, given our current model, for any of this to be sustainable. And we're watching this with the demise of Harborside and all of these other larger industries in cannabis. And now we're starting to already see it in accelerated mode in the mushroom world. Should mushrooms and psychedelics, like most other things such as affordable organic food and a place to live inside, be only for the wealthy? This is St. Germain on Monday. The High at 9 News. Jump on in, folks.
Oh, okay, Lord. Can I ask a question? Because at one point, the woman who was saying that the $10,000 is too much and they simply don't have it. Is that the same woman who was saying that patients need to understand why the fees are so high and understand the value and whatever? Because I don't understand if these practitioners are charging these egregiously large fees, and I'd love to see where that fee structure starts because they're trying to do, the good work for the people. I'd love to see just how much that good work is going to cost me to try and get my life on a better standing.
Right. I mean, the whole thing at this point is fairly ridiculous the way it's set up, because it's not just that one fee. It's the, $10,000 to $50,000 a month in rent to rent a business property. Mm-hmm. It's also the large insurance, and you're going to pay a larger insurance premium because you're doing something that's Schedule 1 illegal. Mm-hmm. It's the higher fees for banking. I know that, not sure how it is currently, but for the last several years, to get a banking at a credit union for a cannabis business, it's $4,000 to $10,000 a month extra premium. So it's a lot of these different fees that stack up together.
And to answer
me,
your
the whole
question,
thing is ridiculous. If you have a large amount of trauma, there's definitely a route with assisted talk therapy and psychedelics together, or talk therapy to maybe prime you for being ready for psychedelics. But I would posit at least 75% of the people could just eat some mushrooms at a big park in nature and receive the healing that they need. and an eighth of mushrooms is still running $15 to $25 most places in America. So you're in, you're out, $15 plus gas to get to the park. Good.
So to answer your question, no, it was a quote from a different person, an attorney in Colorado.
Thank you.
Named Rachel Gillette, and that is different from the gal D. Lafferty who was quoted in Oregon. But both quotes have merit, right? You can't stand up something and do it the right way on a shoestring budget often, and this cost barrier means that we're not talking about wellness and plant medicine for the people if there's a massive price ticket with it.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and I mean,
we see the same thing in the entertainment industry with people who are trying to push into non-alcoholic, healthier events, really having trouble sustaining their model because rents and all of these other cost factors for running an entertainment business are based on the alcohol model, whereby you're buying a $50 bottle, selling $15 drinks, and thereby making a couple $1,000s off your bottle of alcohol. The moment you don't have that alcohol boost, how do you then your entertainment venue?
With cannabis beverages, Mathieu St. Germain, how else?
You mean hemp beverages, brother Jason? Hemp beverages.
Not for long.
That are outlawed in California now.
I don't know. I mean, part of me is like, that sucks. And part of me is like, this is the cost of doing business. And that's unfortunate. And it's true. You can't like put something together the right way on a shoestring budget. And there's a difference in business and hobbies, right? And when you turn this into a business and you're going to make it your career, it is going to cost you a significant amount to set up. And that's unfortunate and that sucks, but that's just how the cookie crumbles, especially when we're dealing with landlords and we're dealing with inflation for things where we are in an illicit market, essentially any other time, right? So I don't know. I think, sorry, it sucks. We don't want to pay our taxes either. I'm about to file City of LA taxes and like literally pinch my butt the whole time while I do it because every month they take 2% of our gross. So, I
don't know why you're talking about my crumbling cookie and your pinched butt in the same sentence, but I see a spin-off show in the making there. I think what we're trying to talk about here is two separate things, and this intersection about whether healthcare in and of itself should be for profit, right? Because on the one hand, Jenny's got these really great points. Like, look, businesses require resources, and hey, Quinn interrupted me with your production team,
Sorry,
Jason.
bro.
I got the floor, God damn it. So on the one hand, businesses require resources and to do things the right way and to not cut corners and to be responsible and to really focus on those patients requires real money. And that means there's going to be a price tag associated with this treatment and service. On the other hand, there is this underlying question about whether anything related to healthcare and medicine should be for profit at all, right? Because when we think of healthcare as a business, then we put on this profit lens and things have to make money and we have to be in the black and yada, yada, yada. I think we would all agree that there are certain things in healthcare, maybe many things in healthcare, that deserve to not be looked at through the profit lens because there is a value beyond profit. And so I think that's really what we're talking about here is if these things are done the right way in the beginning, they're going to be really, really expensive. And that's a barrier to entry for most people. And I don't think most of us would agree that that's fair. And if we look at this through a not-for-profit lens, how would we lower the costs and still do it the right way? And where would that money come from? And how would we balance it out? And how do we justify providing access to people without looking at their bank account first as a prerequisite for being able to receive innovative therapeutic treatments?
I mean, to me, it sounds like the psychedelic industry is almost in a bigger dumpster fire than the cannabis industry, because at least the cannabis industry has a lot of infrastructure built up all around it, and the psilocybin industry is still getting started. But it sounds like it's in the
I think psilocybin's doing fine. It's just when you start to mediate it with business is where it goes wrong, you know? And funny thing is like these
talk right there.
Right. So these substances tend to actually point to a way beyond just having the fangs out, avarice, profit above all else motive. And I think that what we've seen, and if we look at cannabis, and one of cannabis's messages really a rejection of greed. And what we've seen is those people have come in with a ton of greed and this will to create exponential wealth at the expense of other people and other people's healths are failing. Mm-hmm. What we saw is so many people jumped right from cannabis production into mushroom production, and mushrooms did them the favor of immediately going to zero several times in the first couple of years of this cycle. And just to me, that's a demonstrable lesson. Look at what the mushrooms are showing you. Fuck out if you're just trying to make profit over everything. There's something greater than just money happening in these substances. And the thought that we need some capitalist economy and that fiat currency, which was created for expeditionary wars, colonial oppression of brown people by Europeans across the world, didn't always exist and may not actually, in fact, always have to exist. And if we look at Albert Einstein, who is one of the most brilliant minds of at least the last few hundred years, he talks about how socialism is actually the next evolutionary step from capitalism, where we as a society realize that we actually have to take care of ourselves, and might makes right, and constant warfare and rule by the sword is not actually the most helpful way for our species to inhabit this planet.
Oh boy. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. He's going there today. It's a Monday, you guys.
Disagree with him. I don't disagree with him, and I don't feel like I'm so sick of hearing these hippy dippy. We love you so much. We're doing this for the people. That'll be $75,000, your firstborn child, and whatever else you have if you want us to heal you. That's like those things don't align, and it's bullshit. And I don't mind seeing those people have a hard time. Sorry.
There we go.
She's back.
Yep, there she is.
Oh, Jason.
Apparently, her weed over has now worn off. Thank goodness. So we're
shout out to
Space
Gems and my weed over.
Yeah, we're glad to have you back now.
Space Gems.
She's actually firing on all 8 cylinders now. Yarrow, you better watch out, bro. Good thing you already got introduced by her this morning, or else it would have been. I don't know if you'd still be sitting up straight.
It'd be messy.
Yeah. Exactly. I'm going to roll into my final story for you guys. We have some interesting news in this developing Nebraska ballot measure saga, you guys, because a district court judge dismisses some, but not all charges in Nebraska medical cannabis lawsuit, you guys. That's right. A Lancaster County District Court judge on Friday allowed the lawsuit against the state's active medical cannabis petitions to move forward. Judge Susan Strong is in a 14-page ruling determined that the lawsuit from John Kuhn, a veterinarian rancher from former state senator and former member of the Nebraska State Board of Health, should proceed on 2 counts that relate to voter signatures. The judge dismissed the other complaints on the ballot sponsor statement and the Nebraska Constitution's single subject rule. Well, that's good news. And for the lawsuit to move forward, Kuhn needs to allege, in quote, sufficient facts for relief that is plausible on its face, which Strong said she balanced with the public's right to petition. In a quote, "We have repeatedly said that the right to initiative is precious to the people and one which the courts are zealous to preserve to the fullest tenable measure of spirits as well as the letter." The Nebraska Supreme Court ruled in a related lawsuit 2 weeks ago, which Strong cited on Friday, and there are 2 petitions in circulation that would adopt the following state laws if given voter approval. Nebraska Medical Cannabis Regulation Act define cannabis and legalize possessing, manufacturing, distributing, delivering, and dispensing cannabis for medical purposes, and create the Nebraska Medical Cannabis Commission to oversee the new state law, Initiative Measure 437. And Nebraska Medical Cannabis Patient Protection Act set an allowable amount of medical cannabis at 5 ounces and exempt patients and caregivers from using or assisting someone else in using the cannabis, and require a written recommendation from a healthcare practitioner prior to a prescription, even though, Nick Bradley, we all know it's a recommendation because they already used that the first time, okay? But nonetheless, Kuhn has alleged there are more than enough improperly counted valid signatures that the 2 medical cannabis petitions should be withheld from the November 5th ballot. If that is impossible, but there are still enough valid signatures, Kuhn argued that those election results should be void. The campaign needs 86,499 valid signatures on each of its 2 petitions to regulate and legalize the drug, and Secretary of State Bob
Envin, who is also named in the lawsuit, validated nearly 90,000 signatures on both petitions, September 13th, the final day to do so. And we covered that on High at 9 News as well. That leaves just about 3,000 signatures in wiggle room for the bulk signature requirement, and Kuhn has alleged that at least one petition upward of at least 17,000 signatures were validated but should have been discarded. Those allegations range from signers not being registered voters or Envin counting duplicative signatures to improper notarizations and circulator payments disclosures or incomplete voter information like the date of birth and home address he's citing. Strong also cites Kuhn's allegations that at least 2,433 signers were not registered voters and that 48 signers did not register to vote until after the petition was due July 3rd, that 67 people signed more than once but were counted both times, and the ballot sponsors didn't dispute that if some of the laundry list of reasons are accurate. Some signatures should not have been counted, and Strong wrote, but the sponsors also say the main requirement that the signer be registered to vote wouldn't be enough to invalidate the petitions. Defining a clerical or technical error, Strong said state law does allow some clerical and technical errors to be disregarded if certain other signature gathering requirements are substantially followed. But defining what is a technical error will likely be the next step. As Strong said, it is purely a question of law. In a quote, the court agrees with the sponsors that not every error or irregularity should invalidate a signature, Strong wrote. As an example, she said, whether it is a technical error that some signatures didn't include a date when the voter signed but are sandwiched between two other signatures with the same date, obviously the language of the Nebraska Constitution and statutes is also relevant to whether a defect or technical or clerical, Strong wrote, but the court declines to resolve this issue as the pleadings stage based only on the court's opinion of the relative importance of the statutory requirements alleged violated. Strong allowed the case to move forward to determine whether there are enough signatures in a broader review, and Krista Eggers, campaign manager for the ballot measure, said in a statement, the group is grateful for Strong's decision to dismiss 2 complaints and will continue to exercise all legal options against the signature-based challenges. In an additional quote, we have complete confidence that our local election officials correctly and accurately validated the petition signatures and that our campaign met all legal requirements to appear on the ballot, Eggers said. We remain focused on making sure all Nebraskans have their voice heard on this issue. Kuhn's attorneys had no immediate comment, and in a separate complaint from the Secretary of State, Evan and the Nebraska Attorney General Mike Hilger specifically asked the court in a separate cross-claim to take up the case, particularly after uncovering at least one instance of alleged petition fraud by a paid petition circulator in Grand Island, who was arrested for allegedly forging signatures, and those signatures were never counted. Election officials have confirmed that, and the two Constitution officers have said the case will help election integrity and the bedrock of democratic governance and settle the matter. Strong said Evanham has not requested any relief that would be indifferent that of Kuhn, and said it's unclear whether Evanham has a personal stake in the outcome or a legal or equitable right, title, or interest in the subject of controversy. The judge also pointed to a recent Supreme Court concurrence from Chief Justice Mike Havikian and Justice Lindsay Miller Lerman that there is, in quotes, no process by which the secretary can change his mind and rescind his legal sufficiency determination. And that's in the ballot sponsor complaint. And there's 2 other allegations that Strong dismissed were that one of the sponsors, State Senator Anna Wishart of Lincoln, did not provide her full street address when she filled out the petition, and that the regulatory petition consists of multiple subjects in violation of the Nebraska Constitution. In Wishart's case, she listed her street address but not her city, state, or zip code, and which Kuhn said should invalidate both petitions, and Strong said no other Nebraska case law has defined street address as it relates to the petition's laws. Citing dictionary.com, she said Wishart would still comply as she listed the name or number of a building along along with the name of the road or street on which it is located. However, even if accepting Kuhn's allegations, Strong wrote, Wishart would still prevail as she is on record in taking responsibility for the petition, and her statement was also notarized in Lancaster County, where she lives, Strong said. Single subject requirements. On the other side, the Nebraska Constitution prohibits state laws and ballot measures from containing more than one subject, just like in Florida, in an effort to prevent log rolling or the swaying of interests. And there's a little bit more of the story, but you can check it out on our website. We're already over time. I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say about this.
Well. I mean,
looks like Nebraska. I mean, I think it's good, a really great thing that she threw out those parts of the case, and they're going to check to validate the signatures. I think that's good. Just in general, I think that's always a good thing with all things, not just because it's cannabis, but just to secure election integrity. Right. And so I think ultimately they'll be fine. I'm pretty sure that they have enough signatures to do this, to make those thresholds. And I do like the fact that the judge did rule with some common sense judgment in regards with how they decipher these signatures, because a lot of people have different size handwriting and whatnot. A lot of people go into, like to color outside the lines of their box or whatnot. And, it's a good thing.
No, I understand. I think I appreciate the ruling so far. I think that there is something to be said for making sure that when you're doing things, you're doing them accurately, right? Mm-hmm. I do appreciate there was accountability, even though, yes, we want this measure to pass, for the gentleman who had forged all the signatures on his paid collection efforts. That's shameful. And, I hope that they are able to get this ballot initiative heard and find out what the people of Nebraska actually want. I could understand maybe not wanting to throw your home address down on something. Mm-hmm. If it's illicit in your state and you're already partaking in it.
Well, especially if you're an elected official, they could be some wackadoodles that are trying to find your address and come do crazy stuff outside your house.
I mean, the only wackadoodle is the guy who's spearheading this civil litigation. He's alleging that there's these issues with signatures. He's not alleging that they didn't get enough signatures to meet the threshold. He's preemptively suggesting that because there might be some problems with some signatures, that the entire result should be thrown out. And this guy is desperate. It is so sad and pathetic. And this judge is doing a really good job of just calmly batting down the bullshit. But it's bullshit when the judge is citing dictionary.com to tell somebody who's a former lawmaker that they are just grasping at straws.
I think they were using that as an example. They weren't citing it in that sense.
She was pointing out that the address without the city and state was satisfactory to satisfy the requirement of having put down an address. But think about the nincompoop who goes through the motions of hiring counsel to complain that the city wasn't put there. Like, motherfucker, get back to doing something productive, because that's not it. And so this is the byproduct of democracy. It's not what it was actually intended to do. And so this gentleman is super grasping at straws. I don't think he's going to be successful. I think he wants to say that he did everything he could, and he is, and he's throwing everything at the wall. And when she's ruling down whatever, a couple out of 4, it's not sticking. It's not sticking. So at the end of the day, I don't see any of this having a real impact on the ability for voters to have their opinions tallied. The other question I have is, it says that you can't sign up for a ballot initiative if you're not registered to vote. Now, that may be true in that state, but I don't know that that's entirely fair to begin with. If I'm not registered to vote and all of a sudden there's an issue that gets me off my chair because I really want to vote on this issue, I should be able to sign a ballot initiative and then go register to vote before the election, in my opinion.
One other thing, I wonder if through this whole process, if they're going to discover that there were some illegals that signed these petitions as well.
Imagine.
No, Melania does have a visa that's in good standing. We don't need to worry about that.
Yeah, they're definitely not talking about her.
Anyway, Yarrow.
Yeah, not sure why that even made any sense. But
and I mean, it does make sense. Like, if I care enough about this issue, if this is the only issue I've ever cared about in the history of me being old enough to vote, right? okay, cool. Usually when they're signing these petitions, there's also an option where they have something there for you to sign up to vote because it is a requirement if it is, right? But I think what they were saying was that the requirement was that they would have needed to then sign up to vote by the time that petition needed to be turned in. And
you know, the thing about it is I'm willing to bet that when you see these signature gatherers, they also do have the forms to register to vote. So I'm willing to bet that they had them sign their petition and then handed them a form so they could register to vote. And then these people got home. They didn't fill it out right away. They filled it out whenever, but they mailed it in before they needed to register to vote, which to me seems totally fine. Because
it's fine, and I think they were saying that the ones that weren't registered hadn't registered in time. So like they would have had to have registered to vote by the time that the petitions were to be set in, whatever. So
exactly. I think that's kind of a weak argument and kind of goes against the American democratic process, but nonetheless.
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you all for joining us and getting high at 9 with us every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific and high noon on the East Coast. Big thank yous to our audience and supporters for tuning in daily and listening to the insanity that is the developing cannabis industry. Huge thank you to Catalyst for helping us keep the lights on over here, and thank you to our correspondents for being absolutely amazing. Thank you for Cannabis for giving us a reason to do all of this, and thank you to Cloud Media partners Millie and Anthony in the building today. And thank you all for tuning in and getting high at 9 with us. It is America's #1 daily cannabis news show.